So there's about 1 billion games that you can check out at PAX. And I was a little bit surprised, actually, because we don't have lots of Final Fantasy conversations, Kyle, that you were super pumped to check out Final Fantasy Type 0.
Yeah.
A game that, if you speak Japanese, is old news to you. Because it already came out on the PSP in Japan.
Yes.
But we are getting what? What is happening to this franchise now, or this game, this weird offshoot?
It's coming to 8th gen consoles. It's skipping everything. Started off in 2011 on the PSP, and is shooting straight up to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
Yay?
Absolutely yay.
Sweet. And you've played a little bit on PSP.
Yes.
So.
And I've kept up with it because there were so many fan translation projects out there for that game that everyone just wanted a part of. Everyone wants that game, and everyone wants to understand what it's about and not have to learn a whole nother language, yeah.
So is it about just raw quality? I mean, is it just an awesome game, or is there something really specific about the way they're changing up the format? Is it old school? Is it new school? Is it both?
It's their words. They stress this a lot. More mature, more adult. Basically, the one word I got really attached to, Hajime Tabata is the director we spoke to, by the way. Wrote that down. Check. Perfect. Okay. So Tabata was just like, I don't want heroes in this story. Right? He's like, he wants it to be about like what war is about, like what fighting is about. And so it's like, I got a huge cast, 14 characters. None of them is the hero. You're just people who are in a war. And so it's a more realistic, they say a lot. I mean, none of it is realistic because you're shooting flame out. But on that note, the flame...
That's the one thing that makes it unrealistic.
He said, like, the flame, he wants it to hurt like fire hurts, right? He wants it to be like shooting a gun. It's like if somebody threw flame at you, it would burn you. You know what I mean? And so the magic spells hurt like magic spells, and they're all carry that weight, which I thought was really interesting.
Does that mean that there's like specific damage to body parts that might hinder your battling, or is it just sort of a very dramatic thing to say about it? but it just says burn, and
no,
you're
it
like,
means
ow,
like
ow.
it means like fire's gonna kill you like a headshot will kill you. You know what I mean? It's not just like a fire. You know what I mean? Just like poof, I'm still fine because I'm not weak to fire. You know, that kind of thing.
So what did you see? What format was the game in? What was it like?
It was good. I saw a very short section. The thing I was most scared about was it would look janky. You know, just taking a PSP game, putting it up on a PS4, I thought would really look awful. But they did a lot with the character models. Their capes still billow in the wind and everything. But
is their hair fantastic?
Their hair's all fantastic.
Final Fantasy.
It's all
it has a fantastic
hair. All 14 characters, fantastic hair. Lots of like Ground Zeroes-esque, like glowing, like lens flares, like their armor glows. I think just to make it look more next gen. But it looks okay. It looks all right. It's visually interesting still, despite being a PSP game.
But they haven't like actually fundamentally up-resed everything. So does it still feel like a PSP game that they just kind of put little like remakes and touches on, or does it feel like they made like actual another whole new environment for that game?
No, definitely. I would say it's comparable to what they're doing with Kingdom Hearts. Those remakes look really good.
Yeah.
But not everything holds up. A really interesting thing about this is actually they're going in and changing some of the balancing. And I was not aware of that. They're trying to like make it a better game. Your character's leveling up in pacing and the way that enemies space themselves. And so I was talking to Pada. He's really excited about finally like getting more people to play this game, and he likes big screen experiences. He likes that, and so he's super pumped. And so he kind of like cares about this project so much that he's like, oh, I gotta make this better. I gotta like change how this leveling up works and things like that. And I really admire that. Not a lot of HD remakes change anything about game design, so I really appreciate that they are.
So how's it played? I played a little bit of 13, played 14 a bunch actually. I've been able to sample a couple classes. Played Bravely Default, which I know isn't Final Fantasy, but is kind of a return to old school, the way they set up games. Like you mentioned Kingdom Hearts, like I've dabbled in that combat system. Like, how is this played? What is this? What's happening here?
It's kind of a mixture of Kingdom Hearts in sort of like a targeting reticle you can move around, and then sort of Final Fantasy in the sense that you still have to like rank up and you still have different spells that evolve and things like that. But really, when I played it, I was like, this is kind of like Dirge of Cerberus. If you guys have ever played Dirge of Cerberus,
Yeah, but that's a Not a great game.
I know, and that's not a great game,
Right.
and it's not a great example, but like that sort of active RPG element is
Sure.
definitely a part. You can dodge moves, you can place your stealth strategically. So I mean, I honestly love games like that, and I think
Yeah, no,
Final
it sounds
Fantasy,
like fun. It sounds like something
Yeah.
that I want to take everything I love about Final Fantasy, the way that magic works, the way those classes work, the prestige of that series, and make it actiony. Get in there and actually like smack stuff and jump around and dodge and
Yeah.
get skilled at it, as opposed to like, oh, I made I'm in a 40-minute boss fight and I made the worst decision 20 minutes ago and didn't realize it at the time.
Actually, that stuff's what they're trying to stress. They want to be very fast-paced. It's one of the pillars of this franchise in particular.
And something that people spoke about with the PSP version that was like that's why they were into it. This is a nice change of pace.
Well, it originally was Final Fantasy 13 Agito before it became Type 0. And that was supposed to be the very ambitious line of Final Fantasy 13 products.
Fabula Nova Crystallis.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
wow, nice,
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah.
That was the very
the
tail
full
end of the
title,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy retrospective.
So you had to get- you had
that
to
was
get-
what you were explaining was just starting.
Yeah.
So if you actually watch the Final Fantasy retro, it ends with like, well, 13. Who knows what that game's going to be like? And of course, now it's however many years later, and we're still think about the
Yeah.
Final Fantasy retrospective, man.
Yeah.
We didn't
Oh
know
my God.
that was announced
Yeah.
way before I finished that project.
Still hopeful.
And we're
for
still
what-
like
yeah.
getting remnents of all this Crystallis stuff. So
They
maybe
definitely-
15
the
will
best
eventually
game
come
of all
out.
the Crystallis stuff.
Yeah, in fact,
Type Zero?
they really try to disassociate it with it
Yeah.
entirely. at
I
this
would
point.
imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
All of that splintered apart.
Yeah.
Mom and dad got divorced and nobody got the kids. I mean,
It was such a beautiful idea, though. It was a beautiful family when it lasted for like a month or whatever. I actually had one question, and this kind of infuriates me
Okay.
because I don't really want to admit this, but I'm going to. I pretty much buy a system for like the games and franchises that I really like and obsess about.
That
And
should- you
Final
should
Fantasy
never-
is that, and I should never do it that way.
No,
but
no,
I
you should
do.
never be ashamed of that. I think that's totally reasonable. Absolutely.
Okay, so Final Fantasy is that series, right?
Yes, yeah.
But so 13, I'm super hyped for it. I'm super hyped for Agito. Doesn't come out for the PSP in North America.
Yeah.
I'm super bummed about that. So I buy a Vita. Assuming it has to just port to Vita.
Right.
It's such a logical next step.
Yeah.
That it's obviously the biggest misstep I've ever made.
well, do you have?
Yeah.
Is it's coming to PS4?
But it's
It's
coming to
coming only
PS4.
PS4. It's not
Exactly.
coming to
That's the
Vita.
whole thing.
So there you go. So now you got it on your Vita.
But he's got a worthless because he can do like remote play.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not quite the same thing.
And at least
Yeah,
connects to it. If
but-
you ever had that dream or vision. you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, if I play on the toilet, then I will be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, not outside of my toilet.
That's where I got my best Bravely Default in. That's
Oh,
what
that's
I did some
true.
hardcore power
Yeah.
leveling
Yeah.
while sitting on a can.
No, I mean they definitely addressed that a lot, like why it skipped the Vita basically, because I think we did all expect that, and it turned out just being a weird timing thing, right? Like I think it came at near the end of PSP where it's just like, oh, this makes no sense to translate for PSP when Vita's happening, and then just like Vita's been in a weird space ever since, and so I think just this opportunity for PS4 came out. And honestly, I think this game's director, I think Tabata really wants it on PS4 more than he wants it on Vita.
I mean, that's
That one's just
perfectly
my.
understandable.
That's not his quote. That is just my opinion. Just based off the way the guy talks about how he is excited about like these bigger things. It sounds like he likes it on the big screen, and so I think that's why it's there.
When is it happening? When do we get it?
We don't know. They're not even hinting at when.
So
it's
not to look at the bigger picture, because there's still a lot we don't know. I mean, you can just play it. I mean, anybody, there's a lot of people watching this that are just like, oh my god, they're not. I've beaten this game, you idiots. Like there's a lot you can just get from going out and getting the game now.
but did they understand it? Is the question.
Well,
Yeah.
if they,
know.
there are a lot of brilliant geniuses out there who can speak both the English and Japanese language, and
Yeah.
I tip my hat to them. But not to look at the big picture, but like that's kind of what frustrates me about Final Fantasy right now. Is it's just like I don't know, what are we doing? Wait, it's like that seems to be the whole vibe behind the series. Whenever they announce something that's just like it might end up being a different game, it might end up
I
being
see.
splintered into something else.
Essentially, you're
we're also
talking about
working on this
15.
project. Who the hell knows when that's coming out? And it's just frustrating because growing up, every single Final Fantasy release was always like a major thing that you had to wait for, but you knew it was going to happen. It was like this is the tentpole that all these other things happen. Sure, they'll do Crystal Chronicles or Kingdom Hearts or something, but like
Chocobo's Dungeon.
yeah, but and those we can wait for and pine for, but just so it seems like there is no Final Fantasy project now that doesn't have some kind of stigma of being not going to happen, possibly canceled, renamed, readjusted, priorities shifting all the time at Square. Is that a fear? Is that a worry? Am I the only guy? I seem like a broken record about this.
I want to say for 15 I am, because I have been looking forward to that game when they released that little like CG cinematic, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be the game. This is the game for me. He gets me.
Yeah.
And then it's just sort of like jilted lover,
Brandon, this conversation will be irrelevant in 2 weeks. TGS will happen. We're going to see a ton from Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, you know.
Totally.
And they're going to announce, and it's coming out this year.
Woo! Thank God.
So don't worry about it. In 2 weeks,
man.
this
I mean,
will
I was having nightmares, but Kyle, you totally set my mind at ease. Thank goodness.
Again, that's not official. That's just me. That is just me speculating.
Are you getting us in trouble right now, Kyle?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. There's a bunch of things I shouldn't have. Honestly, I shouldn't have said that.
Really quick to wrap
It's not
things
happening.
up. Walking into this appointment, walking out, were you happier? Were you at the same? Were you scared? I mean, how do you feel now about this project?
I was really excited. And can I tell you, actually, I'm very excited about Square Enix right now. Because based off of some of the things that Tabata was saying about like how much he enjoys feedback. Basically, the reason this game is coming now is because we are complainers on the internet, and we all said, "Where's Type 0?"
Perfect.
Which is getting us somewhere finally.
Yeah.
The internet is
Exactly.
winning.
And
we
so
did it.
Yeah, that's what makes me really encouraged. I think Square Enix is finally like picking up on like what people want, and that's really encouraging. And it's encouraging to see someone that high up, totally aware of that stuff. He's like, I have interest in doing a Reddit AMA. It's like, what? You know what it is? Like, yeah, I want to do one of those really bad, but I would need a translator. Like, you should do it. Do it. That would be really interesting.
So what you're saying is they have finally become savvy to the internet.
Yes,
It's like
exactly,
they finally
yeah.
discovered, oh, this is what we can do with it.
Yeah, and that was honestly like one of my takeaways from that meeting. It's just like, yeah, they're getting it. I know you're a little scorned about everything that happened in the last generation of video games with what they've done, but I'm very hopeful for the future.
I am looking forward to not being scorned.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being surprised. And if it's on, I'd be upset if it was on the Vita because I don't have a Vita, but if it was coming to PS4, yeah, definitely a game I'll check out. So curious to hear more. Thank you for the update, Kyle.